So, hi out there. Hello. So, hello, chicken lovers. We're going to be going live to the presentation. I would love you guys to be in this closed group. I wanted it to be closed just because I think there are some things that might be a little bit sensitive. I know some people have some issues with neighbors and then also the city. So I want people to feel like this is a group that they can go to if they're having any trouble. I'm calling this a support group for Newcastle disease because there have been some really crazy, really challenging, and downright difficult issues related to how the county is in California is dealing with the concern for Newcastle disease. And so I'm going to show you some resources related to that. So again, hello, chicken lovers out there. If you have a chance, I would love to see how many chickens that you guys have. I think that that would be really fun, just so that we can, I know there's people who are thinking about having chickens or people who have chickens right now. And then unfortunately, because in Newcastle, some people's flocks have actually been killed in the name of trying to protect the spread of Newcastle. And let's be honest, our small little um, flocks are probably not going to be the reason why a big industrial flock is going to have trouble. So, but I think that they are able to, use that force against us. And I'm hoping that we can support each other through it, because I think most of us are just doing small little flocks. If you want to know, I actually started out with 20 chicks. Eventually, at one point, had up as much as 30 chickens at one time, which was way too much for me to be able to handle. And right now, after about 10 years of kind of some, just the life cycle of animals, what's happened is I am now with a small flock of 3 hens and 2 roosters. One of the hens is still laying, and then our other two hens are in agapause or menopause, however you want to put it, but they aren't laying at all. But we still love them and we want them to have a home. We have 2 roosters, and I actually think that, initially our roosters were both fertile, and I don't know, they're both around getting close to 8 or 9 years. And that's just because our roosters can live a lot longer than our hens, just because of breeding practices. So our roosters are doing really well, but I don't think they're fertile. I haven't been able to set up any of our eggs to incubate and actually grow and hatch where they used to. And so I'm assuming that that's just the way that things are now. And we are currently live, and it's 5 minutes in. So if you'd like to, we can go ahead and then get started. We're going to talk about a few different things related to Newcastle disease. And I think that this is just a topic that I started to just barely hear about a year ago, but then I didn't actually realize until just recently how tricky the situation had become in Los Angeles County. I knew there was a quarantine. I knew that flocks had been detected, but I think until just yesterday when I was looking at some of the online information, I didn't actually realize um, how little it was actually affecting Los Angeles proper. And I don't see that anyone has been identified in Long Beach, where I'm at, as being positive. But I think it's also because we have very small flocks. We don't actually go around and do many things. Kind of, people are not moving chickens around. At least for me, I'm not doing any shows. And it does appear that it's mostly a lot of the chickens that have been moved around in shows that turned up to be positive. And I'll show you some of that information. So again, let's go over. If you want to have some up-to-date information, Laura, one of the group managers for the Los Angeles Urban Chicken Enthusiasts, gave me a tip that there is a group, and it is called Save Our Birds. And I'm going to go ahead and then Save Our Birds is a Facebook group that was set up for people who are within the quarantine area of the Newcastle disease to help each other know where the CDFA people who are patrolling are, and there are constant updates from what I can tell. It's also in a way a support group to kind of help people who've had incidents where their flocks have been euthanized. I think I didn't realize the extent of it until reading through the Save Our Birds. So I want you guys to know about it in case you hear about some activity in your area. So let's talk about some of the fundamentals, and then we'll get to what the current quarantine areas are. So again, if you want to join the Save Our Birds Facebook group, and I just screened through some of the posts there, and I thought that they were really helpful, but it's also super sad as to what's been going on. If you're interested in seeing some of the information about Newcastle disease, there is the CDFA website. I will, after this, post in the comments for this meetup a list of the websites and the links so that you can get to them. So I'm going to go ahead and then show you some of the information that they are putting up there. So this is just in place from September 18th, and they posted this from the CDFA website just to make sure that people knew that the quarantine was still in place. I believe there might have been some relaxation in different areas. I'd rather not say exactly where, just to not confuse people. I still think that there is a lot of active information, but we always feel like we really don't know what's going on. It is really hard to know. This is a map of the February 2019 quarantine. I don't believe it's changed much since then. And you can see that it includes Los Angeles, parts of San Bernardino, and then Riverside counties. The kind of lavender area shows the boundary of the quarantine. And you can see that this is where we are right now from the Los Angeles urban chicken enthusiasts. It has made it very difficult for us to be able to meet up, and I'm hoping that we can be a resource to each other so we can support each other through this. It is just really so sad that we can't have new members to our flocks. I think we've been here together for a very long time, and my flock is, it's aging, and so I'd like us to be able to add some new hens, maybe some chicks, and incubate some eggs if possible. But again, you are not allowed to have any eggs, chicks, or chickens transported in or out of the quarantine area. So we want to make sure that we abide by that. Every time there is a report of someone breaking quarantine, the time period, and I don't know what that is in terms of like when they have movement beyond the border of the quarantine area, that then they need to wait a period before they can assess whether there are new cases. So please be aware so that we can hopefully safely have expansion of our flocks again. I would really, really love to do that, and I'm glad you guys are here with me so that we can kind of get through this period. So next up, what I want to show you is some information about Virulent Newcastle disease. This is from the CDFA website, and you can see that also on the USDA website. I'll put some links in so that you can see this. But it goes over why Virulent Newcastle disease is a concern. It is a virus. As we know, viruses are very difficult to control. They are passed from one individual that's infected to another. It can also be on, the virus can be located on what's called fomites, or anything that could be a tire, your shoes, inanimate objects, in addition to the actual infected birds. So we want to make sure that we're very careful. And then this has a couple just guidelines as to how you can prevent the disease from spreading. And then also you want to identify chickens or poultry that are sick as soon as possible so that you can isolate them. I know of someone who had a sick bird and they tried to get some help from a vet, but because of the quarantine, the vets are not allowed to have those birds come to their location because that's considered moving them. So again, you want to be careful if you see any of the signs of virulent Newcastle disease. It's also previously called exotic Newcastle disease, so the same virus. You can see sudden death. You can see that other chickens are dying within your flock. There might be sneezing, gasping for air, nasal discharge, coughing, greenish watery diarrhea. These are unfortunately very common things, but Newcastle disease actually happens very quickly. And so this isn't a hen that's just kind of been walking around as, in the senior years that's having trouble, but very sudden onset of symptoms. They'll be not moving around as much. They might even have tremors, droopy wings. Their head could be twisted. It could be very scary, and they'll look very sick very quickly. And there's also the swelling of the eyes and the neck. So you just want to be careful if you start to see any of these things. There is a number that you can call if you want your animals to be evaluated. I would caution you that I'm not sure exactly what they would do if they found this. You can go to the USDA website that you can, or if you want to be able to see the most up-to-date information, there's also a link there to see the most recent tested positive cases. So there is a table there, and we will go through that so you can see where the cases are, and that's been mostly backyard exhibition chickens and not necessarily our flocks. Now I want to show you where you can get to this information, and this is the California website, and it has the most recent posts and information about what is going on with the quarantine. So you'll be able to see there was the last post from just the end of September, and then you can go through. There's also the link to the map, and you can see that this would be the link then to the USDA website. There is a section on pests and diseases, which will list all of the different concerns from the USDA. And then once that's loaded, you can go ahead and then go to the very bottom, because that's where virulent is going to be. And you will see a little hens. We'll check on that. And then that's the post that we were looking at, so the virulent Newcastle disease information. And then you can see and look through the most recent detected cases and where they are. So mostly Riverside or within Los Angeles, it's been with these exhibition kind of showers where there's larger flocks, which is really sad, because when they euthanize those, they are flocks that were probably managed and cared for and loved for very long periods. And so the breeding that was happening with those flocks is probably going to be very difficult to recover. So my heart goes out to those people who lost their flocks. So again, I'd like to refer you to the two resources that I think could be helpful if you're starting to learn about virulent Newcastle disease. There is the CFDA website, and then Save Our Birds is the Facebook group that you could go to if you're looking for support if something has happened to your flock. There are a lot of supporters there that could really help you out through this situation. And then next, I just want to do a short little visit with Peewee, so hang on just a second. I'm going to go get Peewee so you can see how he's been doing. He's been on the meetup group for my photo ever since I started with chickens, and I hope that you get to meet him one day. So here's Peewee. This is Peewee. I don't know if Peewee's going to want to say anything. I'm hoping that Peewee can say something, because I was hoping he'd say hello to you guys. Peewee is one of our first chickens. He came in the group of 20 chicks. And then, so I'm just going to go over just a quick story about Peewee in case we have other people that are coming in. And I really appreciate everyone that's here for the first time for our first Facebook Live event for the Los Angeles Urban Chicken Enthusiasts. I think this has been a success. I don't know what you guys think. Okay, we are still live here. So Peewee's a pretty good boy. You can see how, like in general, even though people are really like nervous about roosters, I just We had loved him from when he was a chick. So when we found out that he was a boy, we really had a lot of trouble figuring out what to do because roosters aren't allowed in our area. And so I think that really the only reason why that's the case is people are sometimes concerned about the crowing, which I love in other languages. It's actually considered singing. And so what we wound up doing, and I know this has become not a Newcastle disease type of presentation, but it's more now like about roosters. But anyways, I'll keep on going. So Peewee is a boy who he does crow. He crows in the morning, or he crows when he's nervous about something or concerned, and so that seems to be perfectly normal. And we keep him inside in the morning, and then during the day he can go outside and then play with the hens and kind of do some normal chicken life stuff. This has been really great. Again, I really want to thank you for being here. And if you're seeing this in the replay, I hope that this information is useful to you. I wanted to make it a brief presentation so that you can just get a couple of nuggets. And then the most important thing is get the up-to-date information. I will leave the links below in the comments. And then that way you can go there because things are changing day to day. There may be a new case and that would throw everything off again. But hopefully everyone's abiding by the quarantine. It means that right now you cannot order chickens, you cannot order chicks. You're not supposed to bring eggs in to raise new chickens right now or incubate them. And so right now there's really limited ability to expand your flock if that's what you want to do. We're going to hope that 2020 is when the quarantine lifts. And I hope that you all have a wonderful time with your chickens.